In a small town where everyone knows everyone, stories often travel faster than truth itself. Behind the walls of a quiet little convenience store, something happens one afternoon that will shake the hearts of everyone who witnesses it. A story that begins with judgment, but ends with redemption, courage, and an unexpected reunion. The day had started like any other. The soft hum of ceiling fans blended with the ticking clock above the cashier's counter. The shelves were neatly stacked with daily essentials: milk, bread, fruit, and a few toys in the corner that always caught the eyes of children. It was a peaceful afternoon until the fragile silence was broken by a harsh voice. "Stop right there. What do you think you're doing?" The store clerk, a woman in her late 50s, had caught sight of a young girl near the candy section. The girl froze instantly. She couldn't have been more than 14, thin, pale, and trembling. Her clothes were simple, worn from time, and her hair fell over her face as she tried to steady herself. But there was something else about her that caught everyone's attention. She sat in a wheelchair. The clerk marched toward her, waving her hands angrily. "You think I didn't see that? Don't play innocent. You're trying to steal, aren't you?" The girl shook her head, her voice barely audible. "No, ma'am. I didn't. I was just looking." Her hands, frail and shaking, hovered near a chocolate bar that had fallen from the shelf. It was clear she couldn't even lift it properly. But the clerk wasn't listening. Her voice grew louder, drawing the attention of everyone in the store. "People like you make me sick. Always pretending to be helpless just to get pity." Whispers began to ripple through the small crowd. A few customers stepped back, avoiding eye contact. Some looked away out of discomfort, while others simply judged in silence. It was a painful sight. A scared girl, cornered and humiliated, with no one stepping in to help. At that moment, a man at the far end of the store set down the groceries he was holding and turned around. His name was Daniel Hayes, a single father in his late 30s. His face showed the kind of tiredness that only life's hardships can carve. He had been through battles of his own: the loss of his wife, the struggle of raising his son alone, the long nights of worry about bills and school fees. But despite the weariness in his eyes, there was a deep kindness that never faded. He walked over quietly, placing himself between the clerk and the girl. "Excuse me," he said softly but firmly. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." The clerk folded her arms, glaring. "A misunderstanding? You think I didn't see her trying to take something?" Daniel crouched down beside the girl's wheelchair, his voice calm. "Hey, it's okay. Did you take anything?" The girl shook her head again, tears welling in her eyes. "No, I dropped it." Daniel picked up the candy bar and placed it back on the shelf. "See, it just fell," the clerk scoffed. "Oh, come on. You're just taking her side because she looks pathetic." Daniel stood up straight. His voice didn't rise, but there was power in his tone. "No, I'm taking her side because she deserves to be treated like a human being. Look at her hands. Do you really think she could steal something without anyone noticing?" The store went silent. Even the hum of the fan seemed to fade. The girl's tears began to fall, her lips trembling as she whispered, "Thank you." Daniel turned to the clerk again. "Maybe you should apologize." The woman hesitated, then looked away, muttering something under her breath. But the damage had already been done. Everyone had seen how quickly the world turns cruel toward those who can't defend themselves. Daniel helped the girl out of the store, wheeling her to a bench outside. The sun was warm on their faces, and for a moment the tension melted away. "You okay?" he asked gently. She nodded weakly. "I didn't mean to cause trouble. I just wanted to buy something sweet for my dad. It's his birthday." Daniel smiled softly. "That's really kind of you. What's your name?" "Lily," she said. "Lily Parker." He froze for a second. The name stirred something in his memory. Parker. Why did that sound familiar? "Do you live nearby?" he asked, trying to keep his tone casual. Lily nodded. "Yes, my dad takes care of me. He doesn't let me go out much, but today he was sleeping, so I came on my own. I wanted to surprise him." Daniel's heart tightened. He admired her bravery. The courage it must have taken to come here alone despite her disability. He decided to help her finish what she had started. "All right," he said. "Let's make sure your dad gets his birthday gift." He went back into the store, paid for the candy, and added a small cake from the counter. When he returned, Lily's eyes widened in surprise. "You didn't have to," he smiled. "I know. But sometimes kindness is all we have to make the world a little better." They talked for a while on the way to her house. The road wound through the quieter part of town, small, weathered homes with gardens full of wildflowers. As they reached one of the houses near the edge of the hill, Lily pointed. "That's our home." Daniel helped her up the small ramp and knocked on the door. For a moment there was silence. Then the door opened, and the man standing there froze as if he'd seen a ghost. "Daniel?" Daniel's breath caught in his throat. The man before him was someone he hadn't seen in almost 15 years. James Parker, his old best friend. They had grown up together, shared dreams, and faced struggles side by side until a misunderstanding tore them apart. Life had taken them down different roads, and Daniel had often wondered what happened to him. "James," he whispered, I didn't know." James's eyes widened as he looked at his daughter. "Lily, you went out alone?" "I wanted to get you something for your birthday," she said softly. "This man helped me." Daniel could see the emotion in James's eyes. Fear, love, guilt, and gratitude all at once. He knelt beside his daughter, hugging her tightly. "You shouldn't have gone out, sweetheart, but—" "Thank you." When he looked up, his eyes met Daniel's again. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. So many years of silence stood between them. Finally, James said, "You helped my daughter, after everything that happened between us?" Daniel sighed. "That doesn't matter anymore. What matters is she needed someone, and I was there." James stepped aside, his voice trembling. "Come in, please." Inside, the house was small but filled with warmth. Pictures lined the walls, some of Lily, others of a woman Daniel assumed was her late mother. The air carried the smell of fresh bread, and sunlight poured through lace curtains. As they sat down, James explained how life had changed. After his wife's accident years ago, he'd been left alone to care for Lily, who had lost the use of her legs due to the same crash. He worked odd jobs, struggled to make ends meet, and spent every day trying to give her a normal life. Daniel listened quietly, guilt flickering in his chest for ever letting their friendship die over something that, in hindsight, seemed so small. "I should have reached out," Daniel said finally. "When I heard about your accident, I didn't know what to say." James nodded slowly. "We both made mistakes. But maybe this, today, was meant to happen." Lily smiled, holding the small cake in her lap. "Can we have it now?" she asked, her eyes shining. They laughed, a simple, genuine laughter that seemed to wash away years of bitterness. As they shared the cake, the past began to heal in quiet, unspoken ways. Daniel felt something shift inside him, a reminder that kindness doesn't just save others. It often saves the giver, too. Later that evening, as he prepared to leave, James put a hand on his shoulder. "You didn't just help my daughter today. You brought something back into our lives that we'd both forgotten. Hope." Daniel smiled, his eyes glistening. "Maybe it's time we stop running from the past." James nodded. "Maybe it's time we start again." The two men stood at the doorway as the sun dipped below the hills, painting the sky with gold and crimson. Lily waved from her wheelchair, holding the half-eaten piece of cake like a trophy. "Thank you, Mr. Hayes," she called out. "Take care, kiddo," he replied. As Daniel walked back down the road, he felt lighter than he had in years. He realized that life's greatest moments often come disguised as small acts of courage, standing up for someone, showing compassion when it's least expected, and finding forgiveness where you thought none was possible. The next morning, word spread across the town, not about a girl accused of stealing, but about the man who stood up for her. The story touched hearts, reminding people that kindness still exists even in the smallest corners of the world. Weeks later, Daniel and James began to rebuild their friendship. They often met at the same store where it all began, this time not as strangers but as brothers rediscovering what truly matters. Lily became like a daughter to Daniel's young son, and their laughter filled the town with a warmth that had been missing for far too long. Sometimes, destiny doesn't shout. It whispers through moments of compassion. It brings people together in the most unexpected ways. And in that small town where one simple act of courage changed 3 lives forever, the lesson remained clear. You don't have to know someone to stand up for what's right. You just have to remember what it feels like to be human. Because kindness, no matter how small, has the power to rewrite even the most painful stories and turn them into miracles.